threats that are coming down. Now, I don't like to be the kind of, I don't like scaring people, and I think I heard Aaron mention that too. I don't like that, and I think it demotivates people. It takes away their ability to stay engaged, and if people aren't engaged, they're not going to go to all this effort they now need to go to vote. So it's important to help people see, how can you be a part of this? There is hope. This is what you can do. Otherwise, why would we even try anymore? Because it looks like these authoritarians are taking over the country. But what's happening is that because people are so, myself included, so tired of Trump, and deadened to kind of, and this is not, I'm not talking about Aaron at all. I'm talking about myself, and I think the whole country. So many people don't want to hear about Trump anymore. I don't want to hear about him anymore. I don't want to hear his voice ever again. I don't like it that anyone's sharing his stuff, because he was kicked off these platforms for a reason, because he's a dangerous individual. He should not be sharing stuff on social media. But on the other hand, we have to know what he's doing, because now he's doing this thing with Kevin McCarthy. They're getting together to have their little meeting so Kevin can be told who to put on this, 1-6 commission. And so we have to stay engaged and somehow manage to see the threat that he does pose, and that his entire party, save for a few individuals, poses to our freedom and to our democracy. So I think we need to be more outraged. And I don't know how we maintain that, because, again, if you're outraged every day, you're going to check out. So that's, to me, one of the challenges that faces us. I mean, our democracy is hanging on by a thread right now.
Yes.
By a thread. And, I don't know what's going to happen. I do think we have a very competent president and vice president, and Joe Biden should not be underestimated when it comes to negotiating. And I believe that as his ally, Whip Jim Clymer said, that he doesn't think that Joe Biden should be pressuring the Senate out loud, publicly. He should be doing that behind the scenes. And I think that might be a clue that that's what's happening. We know that Vice President Harris is doing that. And I believe that Joe Biden knows that he's not going to tell senators publicly what to do. They're not going to receive that well. The legislative branch doesn't like to be ordered around by the executive branch, especially in public. So he's been a senator, he was a senator for 36 years. I think if anyone knows how to negotiate and get something done, it is Joe Biden, and he's proven that. And I love the way that the press cannot get a hold on something to undermine Joe Biden with, right? Because he's been around for so long, and because he's just Joe. Everyone knows Joe, and it's really tough to buy into these Republican narratives if they try to paint him as a communist and whatever, socialist, all the stuff they're doing. Socialist, like, right, every and that's nothing to be afraid of. And yet this is the word that they, because they can't run on any policies, really, this is what they are doing is, and we're seeing this more and more, they're amping up their culture war now, because, I mean, they literally have no policies they can discuss. And so we see Lindsey Graham, he's going to go to war for Chick-fil-A. He's willing to go to war for Chick-fil-A. I mean, right? Like, why is that your issue? Why wouldn't be getting this child cares tax, which, none of them voted for? Why wouldn't you want to help people, especially children? They're supposed to be the party of family value. Why aren't you helping the families in this country? I mean, the Democrats are, I'm the first one to say when I feel like they're just not, they're not using their power. And I think the people gave them power. They worked really hard to give them this power. We barely have it, but I do think they're doing really good things with it. Now, my thing is, I heard Aaron talk about this. He kind of briefly touched this, and there's a lot of thought that, well, you get these policies passed, and then people will vote for you because their lives have been impacted. They see, like, they got this child care tax, they got this, they got help during the pandemic, they got a vaccine. All of these things really being pushed by the Democratic Party. No Republicans voted on that. The child care tax. So I think that is one thing that I think Democrats have relied on that way too much. I mean, people have short memories in this country. Yes. And the press does not report things like, you don't see the headline being Democrats child, tax refund coming to you. It's just child tax coming to you, refund coming to you. You're not, so there's not this understanding of how this happened. Not everybody has all day to pay attention to everything going on. So I think that that's why the voting rights acts need to be passed, both of them. And one of the things that now I'm just nattering on. I feel like I took over with this whole thing, but I'm concerned about the 400 voter suppression bills that have been introduced in 48 states.
Is it 48 now? I thought it was 28.
This is it was introduced in 48 states. It's only become law in 14. So that might be why. This is from the Brennan Center. So, I'm seeing all this happen, and I think the stuff that we saw with the coup and that was a report that CNN had from an excerpt of a book that General Milley thinks that he thought that Donald Trump and his allies might attempt a coup. And I think what we need to take away from that, and the Putin wanted Trump in office, which, I mean, that does not seem like a big deal, right? I mean, it's confirmation.
Sarah, I've been reporting that I've had people on, Craig Unger, Yuri Shvets, former KGB intelligence agent, and LB, Lincoln's Bible. They've been saying this for years. I'm happy it's finally coming out, but guess what, Sarah? These lunatics, these right-wing lunatics, aren't gonna believe it or care about it.
They don't care. I live among them, and they just don't care. It's not. There's nothing. This is a cult. There's no sense in trying to even talk to folks who don't agree on reality, and they'll be like, "Oh well, Putin helped him. Who cares? Haha, he won." It's like, what happened to your alleged patriotism? Where is your we don't have to agree on any policy, but man, we should be agreeing that this is wrong, that we don't let a foreign government install a president, especially because they think he's mentally unstable and is going to cause the kind of social upheaval that we do have in this country. We had it before Trump, but certainly we know from other reports that the Russians they've exploited those already existing tensions, and they have blown them up. And Donald Trump was a big part of that. I mean, you put a white supremacist, neo-Nazis are good people, have a country in shambles. And I think in some ways that's what we have, at least there's such a divide now between people who voted for Trump and people who didn't, because it's not even about policy. It's just about what is reality. Is COVID real? Are you getting a vaccine? Are you trying to kill your neighbors by not getting a vaccine, and you think that's your personal right?
Sarah, I got to say something, because isn't it kind of crazy that here you have the Republicans who are in an uproar, totally outraged by Colin Kaepernick kneeling, during the national anthem. How unpatriotic! Yet now, it turns out that a puppet of Putin's, and they don't care. So they care about the kneeling, but they could give a crap that this guy's been in bed with Putin for 20 years. You know what I mean? It's such a hypocrisy.
I mean, it's hypocrisy. It's deflection. That's what it really is. This is all these little social culture wars that they've tried to ignite have all been to give their base something else to look at. And so they're not looking at the facts. And so they're really focused, and they get all, man, these people are coming for you. They want you to kneel. You shouldn't have to kneel, and then, well, I'm not going to kneel. So this is becoming this emotional kind of authoritarian cult where they know how to manipulate their base. They know how to get them all, just wound up. I mean, you just watch Fox News, which I can't do.
I can't either.
You watch that for 10 minutes and you're jacked up. It's like I'm jacked up watching it because I'm thinking, geez, lie. What's this? What's happening? But it all works because I run into these people every day and they're outraged. I'll just tell this quick little story because I want everyone to know one thing. I want everyone to take away from my experience living among Trump supporters is I don't care what anyone tells you, that when people will interview these folks and then they'll come away and be like, it's economic anxiety, it's this, it's that. That's all baloney. Yes, helping people economically does help them elevate themselves out of hatred sometimes. That's true. But that is not the core of, because a lot of these folks have money. They're, they have good jobs. Not everyone. I'm certainly not, there's a lot of poverty stricken folks who support Trump. And you kind of see that's really sad how they've been manipulated into this. But for the people who have money, have a good job, it's racism. That's it. It's this tribalism, and it's about Christianity, and it's about racism. It's about America first, exceptionalism. Not that it doesn't mean what we all think that means. It means this weird, world where only Christian white people are able to tell others what to do and able to have kind of the privileges that they feel entitled to. If anyone else wants that, then they're a problem. That's why we see that they don't call these folks, this was domestic terrorism, this attack on the Capitol. They don't call them terrorists. They don't even call them thugs. Tucker Carlson's they all have feelings. They're very concerned about the election because they feel it was taken from them. And yet they will denigrate people protesting Black Lives Matter when they're literally protesting because their lives are on the line, because people have been murdered. So, it doesn't make sense. It's like you said, it's this hypocrisy, but it's driven by this racism. I just went to get this service done a couple years ago. This is just, there had just been a mass shooting. The woman helping me here, I don't want to make any more identifying things. It's not about calling people out. It's just this, I hear this kind of stuff a lot. She said, we would have gun laws in this country if it weren't for Black Lives Matter. I said, what? Like, that's not true. Where did this come from? And it's always some weird thing thrown at you like this that came out of nowhere. I mean, unless you're monitoring all of their crazy channels, you don't know what is going on. But apparently they believe that we would have a gun control if it weren't for Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter doesn't want gun control, according to them. It's their own party and some Democrats that were in bed with the NRA. Certainly not Black Lives Matter. I mean, this is just that kind of insanity. But that is racism. And if you're willing to believe that based on no facts presented to you, and you don't even need to hear anymore, you came with an agenda. You came with the preconceived notions. Us versus them, right?
It is sick. I mean, look at all this. Look at all of them, like Ted Cruz. They're socialists. First of all, they don't even know what socialism means. Donald Trump Jr., well, they're all socialism. They have no idea what socialism means.
What have they been living off of? I mean, you're living on our dollar, Trump's like, what are you talking about? You've got all your travel, your security paid for by us. What are you talking about?
It's just insanity. And
it is.
I just want to get into one thing with this. The Kremlin papers appear to show Putin's plot to put Trump in the White House. Let's see. Vladimir Putin personally authorized a secret spy agency operation to support, just like you said, a mentally unstable Donald Trump in the 2016 U.S. presidential election during a closed session of Russia's National Security Council, according to what are assessed to be leaked Kremlin documents. I mean, now Sarah and everyone, this is Sarah Reese Jones. Everyone's asking. I mean,
hi guys.
That should be enough for any American to go, whoa. I don't care if you're a pick, and I'm not, hold on, I don't want to make any generalizations. I don't care where you're from. But if these Confederate flag holding lunatics, okay, now you're going to support a guy who's in bed with Russia over America? I mean, and they will. Just like Donald Trump said. I'll tell you, Sarah, I've said this on my show before. And then I'd love to get your opinion. But when Donald Trump said in 2015 or 2016, when he said that he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and his supporters will still support him, little did I know that he was also talking about the Republicans in Congress. Little did I know he was also talking about Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, Josh Hawley, Tom Cotton, and the rest of these GQP lunatics. Because really, he incited an insurrection. People were killed. And guess what? Like you said, Kevin McCarthy is going down there to meet with him right now. What say you?
I mean, first of all, this report appears to confirm previous reports. It appears to confirm some of the Steele dossier that I know has been, not accepted widely by everyone, but parts of it have been consistently confirmed. And so I never bought into the P-tape thing, but I think that Donald Trump, this suggested that they have, they have something on him. And I have a long thought, because of his behavior around this Epstein legal battle, and that his focus on Ghislaine Maxwell, I've thought that, it may be something like that they have on him. But you never want to have, everyone knows in national security, you can't have a leader who people can bribe, they can frighten, they can use damaging intelligence against this person. This report to me does confirm. Now I've had people argue with me about this and say, how would this leak? They must want that to leak. When I think that they may well want that to leak, but of course that goes to their whole agenda of sowing discord here. So Trump isn't in office anymore. Well, how do you elevate discord when he's out of office? Well, now you can look at, you guys put in we got you put in Putin. Why wouldn't they want that out there? It's a great success for Russia. And that's what they sought. It's not that they loved Donald Trump. They said he was mentally unstable. They thought that he would be their best way to kind of undermine the United States.
Yep.
And undermine our
negotiations. And he has. And he sure has.
He did. So they, all of that makes sense to me. I'm not a national security expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I have been reading them through, even in 2016 in the lead up to the election, because this started to come out. Hillary Clinton mentioned it. It's like we're starting to look around, and what kind of words would how would they infiltrate? Oh, they would hack a bunch of emails, and then they would put like one false thing in that whole batch of emails. And people would report it because the other stuff was confirmed. So they're very, the way that they plant misinformation and disinformation is very intelligent. It's not something that we seem to be, not that our intelligence agencies couldn't deal with it, but we as a society weren't prepared for that. I think we should have had some guards that were not in place. I didn't think the media should have been reporting on stolen documents that they really didn't have any, if they mattered if they had a purpose that the public needed to know about, if the Democrats had been, planning something or criminal activity was happening in those emails, then definitely that had a public purpose to come out. But I didn't see a public purpose in these gossip of the, infighting in the Hillary campaign, or so-and-so said this about so-and-so. What was that? Why weren't we focused on the issues that each candidate was bringing? And that, by the way, kind of overtook the whole, Trump grabbed them by the what tape that came out.
Yeah. I can't believe he, look, you know what, Sarah? I can't believe he even got elected after that tape came. What woman would vote for him?
I'll tell you, John, I wrote a lot about this at the time, and I called it, for women, post-traumatic Trump syndrome, because it seemed to me that the entire country had stabbed us in the back, didn't even give a crap that our bodies have been abused and, assaulted by this man, that no one seemed to care about. That was very upsetting to me. And I'm sure many women, there's no way of kind of saying you don't matter than that. And their, internalized misogyny, many women buy into the whole patriarchal notion and, side up to the men and tell the men what they want to hear, because then they'll like you and you'll get power and you'll get to marry the rich guy that way, and whatever, all of that goes on. There was this profile the Washington Post did in, I don't know if it was 2016, maybe 2017, of a Trump voter, a woman here in Pennsylvania, who had a lot of mental illness that she was dealing with. And she had threatened Barack Obama enough that they put her on, like, you have to be medicated, that they come and make sure you show up for this medication. It was that bad. Well, so she was a Trump supporter and she called him Big Daddy. She would watch Trump on TV. Big Daddy's going to fix everything. And what was her issue that she was so angry about? Just wait for it. It's coming. She had been sexually harassed at work and lost her job due to speaking out about it. And so she's siding up with Donald Trump. This is psychologically happens quite a lot, because it's the idea that...
Wait. I don't understand, Sarah. Wait. She loves Donald Trump because she was sexually harassed? I don't... Explain it.
And she somehow blamed the Democrats for her being... She blamed the Democrats for her being sexually harassed because they were in power or something when it happened. So she was loving Donald Trump. And the whole concept, this is the whole Republican, you see this in everything that they do. If it doesn't happen to me, then it's not real. And when it happens to me, it was only me. We see this with Megyn Kelly, It was only me that this happened to, and I'm the only case that was important. No one else has had this happen to them without, doing something to invite it. So this case is important, but not everyone. Instead of being inclusive and saying, this is an issue. It happened to me. It happened to many women. And now this man clearly has done this to women. I mean, it came out that Donald Trump was calling female reporters the C word to their boss, who can support this? To me, and that's not about party, that's not about being partisan. That's just about what's wrong with you? Why would that be okay for anyone? What's wrong with this country that we despise women so much that this is okay? It's really disappointing. I mean,
but I couldn't believe that after he said that he still got elected, and I still can't believe there are women. Like I'm sure you've seen these at these rallies, and and there's so many women who support this guy, and meanwhile he has over 35 sexual harassment allegations.
Credible sexual harassment, not this kind of stuff that's the Republicans like to throw out there at anybody who walks that might win an election. But these are credible. They've been checked out by journalists. They're not just thrown out there.
Sarah, also rape and pedophilia,
right?
And yet the GQP, the Christian Evangelical Party,
family values,
is supporting this.
Family values, pro-life, but apparently, women don't matter. I can't feel sorry for us because we're one of many groups that don't matter to Republicans. We're not alone, but in every group, I'm not trying to, not include all these other groups that have been disparaged by Donald Trump and his whole party. I'm just saying yes, these things that he said and these things that he did and all this evidence that came out, it was all just kind of ignored. It's stunning how that happens, right? And I think that the Russians did some of that, and so did our press, because our press was easily manipulated by what happened. Now, it's not happened before, so hopefully a lesson for everyone. But I'm sure the lesson will only be deployed when, as we know, the Russians just hacked the RNC. I think it was the RNC, one of their servers. They say they weren't hacked. But should something come out about that, I'm sure, just like when Sarah Palin's email was hacked, everybody was like, don't report on that. That's not okay. So Hillary Clinton, that's fair game,
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of disparity in judgment, both siderisms.
Is it me, Sarah, and it just seems that the Democratic Party, at least, it just seems that we're the sane party, the loving party, the caring party, the empathetic party. Yet, and Republicans are the gaslighting, hateful, traitorous, racist, white supremacist party. That's what it seems to I mean, if you
You know,
really needed to just define each party, am I right or am I wrong?
well, I mean, I happen to agree with you, but I'm sure that people who are in the Republican Party don't. But I live near Pittsburgh, and this is where the mass shooting happened in the synagogue. I'll never get over it. I mean, because that was incited by a lot of Trump's language about that, fake. Um, I can't remember what he, immigrants coming through the border caravan, all of that language. Um, and yet again, another more people killed. He's not held accountable for this. He doesn't tamp down his language. Republicans don't distance themselves from him. So I think the Republican Party has a deficit of policy. They have a deficit. They have become nothing but really, stooges for the super rich and corporations. And in order to get actual people to vote for them, of course, now they're not even hoping for that. That's why they just want to make sure it's hard for everyone to vote all over the country. But the way to get around that is to generate this kind of phony culture war that they focus on. And I think people who are Republicans and who think that they think they're fiscally responsible. I hear that a lot, and we know that's actually not true anymore. It's an old narrative that's not true. Here are Democrats, we've got everything pay go. We've got a way to pay for this. Well, didn't see that happen with Trump's tax cut. We haven't seen that happen with Republicans for a long time. So I do feel that, or I do experience the language that Republicans use as hateful very often. And it's weird how it isn't really called out in the press. Like somebody calls Democrats demons. All this kind of, it's really depersonalizing. It's disturbing. I try really hard never to return that, because that's not where we need to be, as hard as it is to not say that about people who are declaring war on this country. And let's not forget that, the FBI director said what happened on January 6th was domestic terrorism. That's the way that should be discussed. It was domestic terrorism. If you don't want to get to the bottom of that, like the Republicans don't, you don't want to have an investigation. You don't want to know why the National Guard took so long to show up. You don't care about any of that. What's wrong? You shouldn't be allowed to even be representing the people for this country, in my opinion. It's certainly, I've read legal experts who say, well, you can't pin, yeah, they had that rally, yeah, they said this, but you can't pin them, you can't kick them out of office because of that. But shouldn't we, as a culture, at the very least, have rejected these folks by now?
Yeah.
Why are they still elevated to be equal to this? Republican says this Democrat says this.
I'll tell you why, Sarah. Because you know what it has exposed. The one thing that we could take away from Trump and all of these Republicans is we never realized how much hate there is out in America. I mean, I think we never knew to the extent that white supremacy was in America.
Yeah.
And it saddens me to say, but I thoroughly believe it. I mean, no one. Look, you have a Megyn Kelly on Fox News and NBC, one of them, which is a legitimate network. But at least, I mean, now she's coming out and saying it was overplayed by the media.
Yeah.
I mean, what was overplayed? They just put cameras on.
Yeah, it was disgusting what she said. But she's the same person, misogynist. She helped the Dugars whitewash that whole, Josh sexually assaulting his sisters, and with her, interview, and then she's all her white Santa baloney. I mean, I think if anyone doesn't know who she is by now, and they're still giving her a platform, then they're going to get what they deserve with that. It's white nationalism is your platform. That should be considered hateful. It is hate speech. Then we have, Tucker Carlson bringing up, kind of leading the charge. I guess she wants to be like him, but that's.
It seems, Sarah, is it me, or does it? It seems like Ted Cruz and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all these loonies, it seems like they're trying to be Donald Trump, like they're trying to be like him, so they can get the support from his white supremacist base. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, they're clearly pandering to those people. And we saw them do this before. Like, they never seem to know when the show's over. We saw them do this with Sarah Palin. And when they thought she was a kingmaker, she actually like ruined several races for them. And they're doing that with Donald Trump. They seem to always be so behind on what's happening. I don't know if they just live in this like epistemic bubble or what's going on, but yeah, they're, and the other thing is, they're all afraid of being called out by the mob that Donald Trump incites constantly. And who knows what Donald Trump or the Russians have on any of them. I mean, I thought some of their behavior has been very strange and really cannot be explained any other way. Now, I'm not saying that did happen, but Donald Trump used to operate like a mob boss. I didn't see any changes while he was in the White House, and I don't think that he changed. I think it would be foolish to pretend that he did. So he's always operated by strong-arming people, using kind of his lawyers as thugs to go after people and just beat them into submission, getting stuff to hold over people's heads. That's how he does things, because he's bringing nothing to the table. So, that's what he is.
You have a fan, Sarah.
Oh.
Justin, thanks
Hi,
for
Justin.
$2. Loving this guest,
Thank you.
John. Please have her on more.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I totally appreciate that you're coming on. And now, see now that now how about this one? The top U.S. General Mark Milley, I think, says Trump preaches gospel of the Führer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now, see what I mean? Like, now when you break, now I've been saying Trump is the next Adolf Hitler for a long time, and then a lot of people call me out on it, but I'm like, he has done everything that Hitler did. I mean, everything. I mean, he's followed the Hitler playbook. As Ivana, his first wife, said, Trump had Hitler's speech excerpts. That was his only reading on his night table. This guy definitely wants to be just like Hitler.
He wants to be like him. Yeah, I'm hoping he's too stupid, but we don't, the show.
Well, yeah, he's probably, he's too stupid, but it doesn't matter. It's still hate. And but all this stuff that's coming out, including the Giuliani thing, I don't know if you heard about that. I was talking to Aaron about it. It turns out in this new book that's coming out, I Can Fix It or whatever, that a drunken Rudy Giuliani, when he saw Trump was losing, came up with the big lie. He said, Trump, you have to go out there and say you won now. And then if it gets where they say you didn't, then you call it a big lie. It was all a drunken Giuliani. And now you got all the Ted Cruz's, all these crazies following the pervert known as Rudy Giuliani. Unbelievable.
I mean, if you are, they're lined up following Rudy Giuliani, they're not going to a good place. Rudy Giuliani has taken no one to a good place in a very long time. The 4 seasons total landscaping, Rudy Giuliani is not the guy that you want on your side. You certainly don't want to follow him. I mean, he doesn't have a lot to offer. I think that he's had a lot riding on Trump staying in power. And so he has gone completely, off the deep end as he sees whatever is heading his way coming down. So
and Giuliani, as far as I'm concerned, is going to prison. I mean, they have his computers, they have his tablets.
Yeah, why did they get computers? Oh, why is everyone around Trump being arrested, and why is all his close people always being investigated by somebody, and then they're outraged? Oh, how dare you investigate me? Well, why don't you stop breaking laws? I mean, isn't that, you guys are supposed to be the law and order party? What's happening? Why is it that suddenly, the FBI is listening to me? They listen to you. Maybe you shouldn't be talking to foreign nationals, on the down low. I don't know. That's what they do. That the job is to protect the country. So if you're not going to be a threat to the country, you don't have to worry about this stuff. Seems simple to me.
It's just, it's unbelievable. And then you have Donald Trump out there demanding to get the name of the Capitol police officer who shot Ashley Babbitt, as if the Capitol police officer who was protecting Nancy Pelosi, or was it Mike Pence? It was Mike Pence, and and shot this lunatic who's breaking into the Capitol. Donald Trump is trying to vilify her or him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is, and that's just insanity.
Well, they've all bought it. They've bought into it. She was just there at a rally, and she's their martyr now. A domestic terrorist is their martyr, and I think that we have to all face what that means. I mean, it's funny, it's gross, it's upsetting, but what does it actually say about where this country is? That there is an entire party that views a domestic terrorist who tried to attack the United States as their martyr.
Yep.
That's where we are.
Well, I have to ask you something, Sarah, because I had Aaron on, and I emphatically disagreed with him about this one. And it is, he said that Merrick Garland, they don't want to, go after Trump too hard, because if they do, then Trump is going to use that in his 2024 campaign speech. Look, the woke left radicals are trying to go after me, or something like that. Now, to me, no, justice matters. You don't worry about what happens later on. You hold criminals like Donald Trump accountable for their actions and their words. You don't worry what they're going to use when they campaign. Screw that. Who cares what Donald Trump is going to use?
Is this reporting that he heard, or is he saying, because I think there's ways that this makes sense. I just haven't heard this. So I think.
No. He was just saying that because I said, or somebody else said in the chats that, that Garland, because they're asking, when is Merrick Garland going to do something? And then he said, well, it might not be good if Merrick Garland does it, because then Trump is going to campaign on them.
Well, I mean, I don't agree with that, but I think he makes a point that many people are making. It's a valid point, definitely. I would love to, I don't know that neither one of us, we don't know who's right, because the situation has to play out. We never know what's going on. Like I said before, Democrats impeached Trump the first time, I said, I don't think this is a good idea, because it's just going to he's going to get off, because they're never going to convict him in the Senate. And then he's going to be emboldened, and he's going to just do even worse things. I mean, he's going to hurt more people. And no one agreed with me, and everyone was making the point, well, look what happened with Nixon. The Republicans came on board. I'm like, this is a different party. I don't see it happening now. Different media landscape. It's a different world. It turned out, of course, it was important to impeach him. So I think I was wrong about that part of it. And I certainly thought he deserved to be impeached. That's not the point. But I see him psychologically as somebody very, if he sees he's getting away with stuff, he's going to do more. He isn't somebody who's, oh, that was a slap on the wrist. I learned my lesson. No, that's not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is, you let me get away with this. Fine, great. Now I'm going to do even more. And because you tried to hold me accountable, I'm going to hurt some people, because that's the way he thinks. So my opinion is, I don't know why Merrick Garland is not doing this, taking some actions. I suspect he has good reason for it. I don't know what that reason is. But I also was concerned as soon as he was chosen for this job. I have a lot of respect for him. I would have loved to see him where he belongs, on the Supreme Court. That seat was stolen from the Democrats. But he isn't the kind of person who's like, he wants to restore the norms that we have, that we miss right now. And I want those too. I'm sure most people want our institutions restored. But in order to get there, we need, we got to hold people accountable, because if you don't, this is what you end up with. We're going to have another insurrection. They're plotting it for July. I don't know what's going on with that at the moment, but let's hope it doesn't happen. But if people are not held accountable, that they're going to continue doing this stuff. It's working for them. Why wouldn't they keep doing it? So I would like to see him, and I'm not saying he isn't capable of doing that. It's just that I think he is such an institutionalist and a person of great temperament, like the perfect temperament for the Supreme Court, because he is such a fair-minded person. He is the person that, you want. He's not partisan. He's just a really intellectually honest person of integrity. Absolutely respect him. But I do think that he may not have brought to the table, he might be finding it now, the kind of fight that is required right now. I think these people.
But here's the thing, Sarah. It's his job to uphold justice. I mean,
Right,
that's what he's
right,
there for.
right.
He doesn't do it, then he's not doing his job. And then we hold him accountable.
Right. And I mean, this goes back to, there's so many ways this could go down, because I completely understand Aaron's point. And I think a lot of people feel that way, and think that way. And there is a lot of evidence to support that he would run on being a victim. That's what Donald Trump has always done, because he has nothing. What is he going to run on? Before he promised he was going to make America great again. Well, look, 600,000 people died because he was ignoring a pandemic, because he didn't want to deal with reality, because it was going to be bad for him in the election. So, no, he ruined America. He took us to our knees. We're trying to get back up again. I think the bottom line for me is that the law is the law. Whoever you are, you're supposed to be accountable to the law. So if people have broken the law, or there are charges to be had, they need to be put out there, and they need to be acted on. And it doesn't matter, but on the other hand of that, because I think part of what Aaron's getting to is how threatening what's happening with the voting rights laws are, and how, politically people are trying to get around that by being smart and anticipating, not doing anything that's going to give him a hook. But in my opinion, Donald Trump doesn't need you to give him a hook. He's always going to find one. He'll make it up. It doesn't have to even really happen. But what I would like to see, because he is a threat, and the Republican Party is currently a threat. I made a list here, so just let me, of some voting reforms on top of the Voting Rights Act, which, by the way, I just shared a video right before we went on. Senator Tim Kaine said that all 50 Democrats are supporting voting rights. So if they do find a way, do a carve out for the filibuster, or do find a way to pass one of these bills with reconciliation, I get that means Sinema and Manchin are on board. Of course, the Manchin compromise.
Hold on, Tara. This is big news. Tim Kaine is saying that Manchin and Sinema are on board now for HR 1, or just another one?
They know both, HR 1 and HR 4. So
they're on board now?
That's what he said. I don't know what that means. I mean, I think before everyone gets excited, I don't know that means that they're willing to do a carve out or get rid of the filibuster. So they support these bills as written. That's a great achievement. They're unified. This is what we need. Now, what will they do about it? There has been some movement from Manchin. He did do, after he saw that the Republicans weren't going to work with his compromise originally, he put forth his For the People compromise. The Democrats were all reportedly on board with that. So this is not really a surprise. But the issue.
Sarah, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I have to understand something.
Yeah.
Because Aaron was just saying, I thought we need 60 votes now on it, or can we do it with 50? No,
that's the whole. No, he's right. But the point is, that there's two options that they could do. They can do a filibuster carve out. Now, the framing for this, because Mitch McConnell did a carve out, for example, to get Amy Coney Barrett confirmed really fast before the election. So there is a precedent of doing these carve outs for issues that really are not emergent. Voting rights is a constitutional issue. So there should be an easy argument that there should be a filibuster carve out. The filibuster, which is sort of a Jim Crow holdout, shouldn't be used to keep people from being able to vote. I think that's anyone who's coming to the table honestly should be able to agree on that. So now you've got to get these two, you've got to get Manchin and Sinema on board, so you have 50, so you can do reconciliation, if that's one option. Or they could put through the For the People Act, the reconciliation possibly, or they can do a filibuster carve out. They can make this rule apply to voting laws. So they have two voting laws that they want to pass, and they could say, here, we agreed that we're gonna keep the filibuster, which is what Manchin wants, but we're gonna do this carve out. We're gonna have an exception for voting laws. And so then these voting laws would be on the table. Now, additionally, I think that honestly, I'm not an optimist when it comes to Democrats and being able to hold themselves together in a huge way. But they gave us healthcare reform. They've done a lot of good things for people when it looked very difficult to accomplish. So, but I do think that there are reasons to be hopeful that this could happen. If it doesn't happen, we're screwed. I don't know what else to say about that. But here are a couple things that I wanted to. I think that the Milley coup thing and the Russia they installed Donald Trump report that we seem to be confirmed. I mean, the folks who wrote that at The Guardian did have that report looked at by many people who are familiar with the Kremlin documents. So I think it has a lot of credibility to it. They will need that to be confirmed, obviously, by other sources. But so we're putting that out there. I'm just saying it's, you're not going to hear this is a done thing, because people are going to want that confirmed. But I think we also need, because of what happened on January 6th, and that we see that has not changed. The Republican Party, they've actually been passing all these laws in the states where they can just give this Republican, take away the power from the Democrat Secretary of State or whoever, and give it to a Republican when it comes to the election. And then that person will have the power to overturn the election results. And so because of stuff like that that's going on, which is much more insidious and dangerous and frankly un-American and should be illegal, I mean, that's not how you have a democracy. Clearly that, this is not, that's not how a democracy works. You don't let one party overturn elections they don't like. That's authoritarianism. So I think we need certification protections. We need the voting rights reform.
Yeah.
We need to have the Department of Justice come out and deploy voting monitors to protect election results. They need to stay there while stuff is counted to make sure things aren't being overturned and being changed. We need electoral count reforms. So there's a lot of things that we still need to have done that aren't even just about what are in these two bills that we hope will get passed. I would like to see the carve out. I just want to say this because, John Lewis, there was a lot of, I think it would be nice to call the carve out the John Lewis Freedom Act.
Yeah.
Right? Because instead of everything being about voting is boring. This is it isn't as an act boring, but it's boring as a headline. So it's about our freedom. That's what's at risk right now. It's our freedom. So let's call it that, it's the John Lewis Freedom Act. Get these voting rights for every American passed. And by the way, there was hardly any electoral fraud and voting fraud that happened in the 2020 election. And who did commit knowing fraud? Republicans.
Yep.
We have it here in Pennsylvania, the guy that tried to vote twice on dead mother and dead mother-in-laws.
Yep.
And then in Ohio, dead dad, the Trump supporter. It's outrageous that this whole thing is being, these laws are being passed based on this huge lie that also casts aspersions and creates hate against all kinds of communities, but especially the Black community. This over and over again. I mean, the concerns that I have for the Black community in this country as all of this stuff, because Republicans use them. They use them as these, like, a target. Anything they want. It's, in Detroit, the black people. In Philadelphia, the black people were, they're the ones that were cheating. Well, they weren't. They were just trying to vote. They waited in line for 6 frigging hours so they could vote. Nobody was cheating. No one got caught cheating on purpose except for these Republicans. There's one person who voted in Texas and seems like he voted illegally, but he thought he had the right to vote. He had been incarcerated many years ago. He thought he had the right to vote. Republicans put him in jail. So the law matters. Does the law matter for everyone? I mean, if it does, great. Let's apply it equally, because that's an outrage.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, I have to say it's been a pleasure having you on. Did you have a good time?
I have had a blast talking to you. This has just been great. I mean, I've never, been on your show before, so I wasn't sure kind of how the dialogue would go back and forth. I watched your other shows, so I kind of had an idea from that, but I've just had a blast. I mean, it's great talking about all this stuff. I feel like we have a common ground for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like the one thing that they always have said to me, I've been complimented. I try not to interrupt. I'll always listen to my guests, and I always do that. I mean, occasionally I will if I want to get on topic or whatever, but I try to just, because I'm here because I'm interested in what you have to say.
Right. Yeah. No, it's I've done the hosting, and I just made that point to somebody the other day. Like, the host asked the questions, that's why I was trying to get this other person to let me interview them. And I was like, you're the expert, so I will ask you these things because you know the answers to them. Otherwise, I would just be talking to myself. What's the point, But it's great to have such a good audience. You obviously already have, and to have people who care so much. I get really discouraged in this job. I mean, it's just really tough sometimes when there's a lot of challenges coming at us from in the media world that people don't all know about, and it just comes down. It's tough. So it's really great when we see, people are out there, they care, they're engaged, they want our democracy to do well, and they are outraged by this, and I think that's important.
Yeah. Sarah, do you have anything that you want to plug before you go?
I do. 2 things. Follow me on Twitter at Politicus Sarah, PoliticusUS, Sarah, SARAH. And on Politicus USA, that's our website. I'm the editor in chief there.
Sorry, it's Politicus. I've been saying
everyone does.
Politics USA.
I didn't even notice. But come in, follow, sign up for our emails and give us a read, because we are 100% supported by our readers, not even with donations, but just with reading. And so it helps us if you sign up for our emails, if you read our stories. We're trying to report things for the people. That's always been our agenda. So it's not about left or right. It's about what's best for people, what is going to help their lives be better. And that's always been our mission. So we're corporate free and not affiliated with any think tanks or anything like that. So we have no obligation to anyone but the readers.
Awesome, Sarah, and thanks for coming on. And if I ever have a stand-up gig in Pennsylvania or Pittsburgh, I will definitely put you on the list.
Let me know. And I come to LA a lot because I have friends still there. So yeah.
If you're ever going to be out here, definitely go ahead and let me know. Okay.
I will do that. All right.
All right, Sarah. Yeah. Have a great.
Thank you.
All right, Sarah Reese Jones from Politicus USA. I feel so